Schmickler, you good?
Yeah.
Cool. I affirm the resolution is not a question of the implementation of an opt-out organ procurement policy, or rather a question of competing claims to the entitlement of organs. The accuracy of the claim of one who is in need of an organ outweighs the claim of one who is declared dead and has not made the preference for organ donation known. Rodriguez clarifies. The presumption of consent is not right until the person sees presumed consent laws place the interest in saving lives above the individual's interest in autonomy, and thus the presumption being made is that of the right to post-mortem body. Next, I defend a framework of absurdism. The thesis of absurdism is that any attempt of humans to find meaning to the world can never overcome the inherent meaninglessness of the world. If this is true, then it forms the basis of all our ethical judgments. There are 5 warrants. First, the human need for objective understanding of the world is incoherent because thought reduces the world to a view of human understanding. Thought reduces an inhuman world to the realm of the human. Camus explains, the heart of all beauty lies something inhumane details. Lucy of Lucy, meaning which we get close to we cease to understand because for centuries we've only understood solely the images we attribute to it. The world debates becomes itself against strangers that the world's absurd man. Humans too treat the inhumane, the mechanical aspects of their meaningless pantomime make silly everything that surrounds them. Likewise, the stranger who comes to me as and mirrors also the absurd. The mind seems desire parallel to human's unconscious feeling in the universe. It's an appetite for clarity. Understanding the world of the human is reducing it to the human. The cat's universe is not the universe of an anthill. All thought is anthropomorphic. The mind aims to understand the reality can end itself only by reducing the world in terms of thought. This frames our ethical decisions because all objective thought, even ethical thought, is a reduction to the human realm and can never truly understand the essence of the world. The scientific understanding of the world can't solve because it still reduces the empirical facts of the world to terms that humans can understand. Equations and scientific laws don't actually exist in nature. Rather, they're human approximations of moral facts which we can never fully understand. Second, even if human thought can potentially grasp the essence of the world, quantum theory tells us that the understanding is impossible. Kundert writes, the universe is irrational. Reason and rationality are built on the premise of following rules of logic. The universe does no such thing. There's no such thing in science. The application of reason upon nature has been exposed not as an all-paid truth, but a game of prediction. Quantum theory shows that the universe is very unpredictable things in small quantities at high speeds. The use of reason on the universe is absurd. This is ethically relevant because any ethically inventive attempts to apply reason to the ethically guided interactions predicting at the small scale, this is impossible. Third, death renders the human quest for meaning is pointless because death is inevitable. Meaning is illusory. Camus 2 writes, the absurd cancels all my chances of eternal freedom. For encountering the absurd, humans live with aims concerned for the future justification. They think something in the life can be directed at the absurd. Everything except my way of acting as if everything has meaning is given to the lie by the absurdity of death. Thinking of the future, establishing aims, having purposes, all the presupposes belief in freedom. Higher liberty does not exist. Death is the only reality. After death, all the chips are down. Thus, any meaning which humans assign to the project's illusory is the inevitability of death renders the benefits of this project only temporary. Fourth, institutions created to instill meaning upon the world repeatedly failed. Only absurd and acknowledge the persistent confusion as a result of these institutions. Other theories discount reality as human experience. Genovese writes, by the mid-20th century, humanity witnessed the repeated failure of traditional religious, governmental, and social institutions. World Wars II and I and II, along with other conflicts, contribute a sense of confusion. Camus feels the need to acknowledge the unpredictability of the universe. Confusion is not these contemporary issues regarding religion, the environment, economics, warfare prove as much absurdism will always be relevant. Fifth, the paradox of God makes meaning illusory. Either an all-powerful God exists and humans aren't responsible for evil, in which case human actions have illusory and uncontrolled meaning, or God doesn't exist, in which case there's no meaning to put transcendent meaning to the world, and all human constructs of meaning are illusory. Camus 3 writes, the problem of freedom is no meaning for its link with the problem of God. Knowing whether or not the human is free involves knowing whether he or she can have a master of the absurdity. Particular this problem comes to the fact that very notion makes the problem of freedom possible. Take it all its meaning. Either we are not free and God is all powerful and responsible, either, or we are free and responsible. God is not all powerful. Thus, all claims to organs must be made within the context of absurdism because it forms our epistemological basis. This precludes other ethical arguments which don't link to fundamental epistemological facts. As the other theories based upon unsound epistemological basis, absurdism comes for other theories aimed at guiding action because it answers the question of the resolution. The resolution doesn't ask for an ethical theory which tells the government what to do, but rather an epistemological theory which allows the claims of entitlement to be weighed. Thus, I contend that absurdism gives more weight to the living than the dead for organs. There are 4 warrants. First, since the absurd basis all other ethical judgments would apply ethical meaning to the world, all conclusions must be based upon the absurd. However, since absurd only exists insofar as each human experiences the work, we must prioritize human experience. Can move 4 writes. Belief in the absurd is tantamount to substituting the quantity of experiences for the quality of life. Has no other aspect than that of the absurd. What counts is not the best living, but the most living. Value judgments discard in favor of factual judgments. I merely draw conclusions from what I see. This also outweighs under any other framework. People aren't alive; they can't experience values that the framework asserts. Second, since all humans in the constant struggle to firm life and meaning, they must apply the value they put into their own lives and the lives of others. This would render the claims of those who are dead to their organs illegitimate. Genovese 2 furthers. Social actions, life-affirming solidarity, certainly life-promoting. If one human knows that the human next to her is engaged in the same struggle, creating meaningful existence as inherently meaningless world, she will naturally view that human as equal. Third, the absurd implies that sensory experience is the basis of all values and thus ought to be promoted above all else. Genovese 3 writes, if human meaning thought is arbitrary, sensory experience becomes the most trustworthy experience of a real experience. Sensory experiences of those life-promoting rather than life-threatening should drive the creation of values to act in a way that would benefit another, means promoting desire of another's right to the interpretation of sensory experience. Embracing another's interpretation of sensory experience is just. Fourth, the only response to the fact that the human condition is to recognize that condition. The human condition, the reality of death, crushes humans, and only resisting death is a logical response to this conflict. Blanchard writes, resistance, the appropriate reaction to the absurd, is linked to formulating an accurate conception of reality of the characters in the plague that refuse to acknowledge the absurd display delusional tendencies. Dr. Roux realizes the plague is beyond human contravention because they recognize the absurdity of the plague. They resist. Roux limits his reflection to the immediacy of the situation, trying to understand the significance of the plague. I have no idea what's awaiting me from the moment I know there are sick people, and they need curing. His resistance proclaims the value of life as a struggle against death. The struggle for life goes beyond the individual. Underview. First, the resolution's conditional statement specifies the agent ought to presume consent in a just society. In other words, the resolution is a form of society is just, and they ought to presume consent for organ procurement from the thesis means kept affirms because we deny the existence of society, which is justifying that conditional lie, denying the antecedent renders the entire conditional true. Second, prefer F interprets on T and other interpretational issues as long as it's some basis on the literature and the words of the resolution, because A, ground challenging my interpretation topic renders all 6 minutes of by A, C mute kills my ability to leverage my arguments to the next speech and fairly access about, and B, clash challenging my interpret the resolution makes the debate about the round, which should be about the topic itself, which prevents us from engaging any substantive arguments made. This kills education because we no longer need to understand how to engage these other arguments. Third, drop the argument on T and other interpretational issues because A, it lessens the advantage which negative has from speaking. Second, thus has the ability to specifically have to mutually exclusive interps. B, it allows us to return to substance and have an educational debate about the topic instead of having some esoteric theory debates about which have no application in the real world. And C, arguments stand for implicit interrupts the resolution, thus all negative theory interrupts are merely defensive and only reason to exclude the argument. Fourth, I'm willing to clarify my accuracy and cross-exist means no abuse on spectrals they don't ask in CX. Fifth, the wishes of the dead carry no weight because the T's don't have autonomy. John Harris writes, posthumous interests are not interests that consent standardly protects the function of consent, either protect and facilitate autonomy or protect bodily integrity. Facts that without consent constitute violation. Autonomy involves acts of the will. Dead have no will. The dead cannot be autonomous, so they don't have their autonomy violated. The dead cannot have their body integrity and bodily integrity violated, for a violation consists in a breach of integrity that is not consented to. Thus I affirm.
Ready?
Yep.
You say drop the argument on T, right?
Yep.
Or theory, right?
On T. Yes.
Just T or theory too?
I mean, like the F just
you
says.
said T and other
interpretational issues, yeah.
Right, so is theory an interpretational issue?
Yes.
So then theory too?
Yeah.
Okay, so then what does your advocacy look like if we drop it?
What do you mean? Like,
you depend on this resolutional interpretation that we have to defend.
Yeah.
Right, so what does it look like if we drop that resolutional interpretation?
Presumably it would mean we would debate under the NC's conception of the round.
What is, okay, so, but, wait, does that mean that you started a new type of burden structure then?
No. I mean,
wait, so the 1AC defends that the living body is more preferable than the dead body, right?
Yeah. That is my interpretation.
Right, that is what you function under, correct?
Yeah.
So if I win that is a bad resolution interpretation, we drop that interpretation, are you going to, what would you defend then?
I mean, what would you want me to defend then?
Wait, I want you to say, will you defend your advocacy throughout the round?
Yes.
So that means that if we drop that argument, but you will defend your advocacy throughout the round.
Sure. I'll concede the T is drop the debater. No, I'll concede the T is drop the debater if you want.
Okay, can you concede the T is drop the debater?
Sure.
Okay, that's fine. So let's talk about this other underview stuff. Okay, actually, this resolution interpretation. You say the resolution is not a question of the implementation of the opt-out, organ. Why is that true?
Okay, so the argument I make is that the resolution is a question of competing claims. Rodriguez explains the presumption of consent only happens.
Why can't those competing claims be between what policy is better?
What do you mean? Because the competing claims aren't it's not a question of which policy is better, but rather if we care about the interests of the living more or the dead.
Right. So why can't a textually, even under comparative worlds or truth testing, a textually negative position might be conscription? That means that I would care about the living too. Why can't it just be which one cares about the living more?
I mean, because my interpretation of the resolution is that presuming with the presumption we make,
I want to know why your interpretation, the internal link is specific to that.
Yeah, the presumption we make is that the claims of the living outweigh the claims of the dead.
Right. Why is that the interpretation of the resolution?
I mean, that is my advocacy. If you want to
I want to know why. Right? You start off with a resolution interpretation. I want to know the justification for that interpretation.
Okay, sure. So that comes from Rodriguez. Rodriguez makes a couple arguments. The first he says is that presumption of consent doesn't arise until the person's deceased. That means what we're dealing with is claims between the deceased and the living. And the second warrant for that is...
Wait. What does Rodriguez say?
Rodriguez says that presumption doesn't happen until a person dies. That means it's not necessarily a question of what happens before death, but rather
why does that mean that presumption thus means that you defend living or dead, living versus dead?
I mean, because it means that it's something that takes place after the fact. It's not a question of what we do before the person dies, but rather once someone dies, whose claim we value more.
But why can't that be between competing policies? Why can't we agree that we value the living first and then just offer a competing policy that's that's better? Because
my argument is that anything that says that the lives of the living come first.
Right. So then it's a textual justification as to why this is the resolution interpretation, right?
Sure.
Okay. Starting point. dead under your interpretation?
I mean, people who are biologically dead.
What does that mean?
It means brain dead.
Okay. Okay, stop. 20 seconds left. We're just going to be one off. Actually, start up again. Okay, stop. So, 12 seconds left. We're just going to be one off. AC, and then another off.
Can you flash me?
Yeah, I would have to put it in a document.
Okay.
Alright, it's like a lot of deep stuff. Okay. Oh, no, that was a mistake. Okay, it's called, let's see. 1NC dots.
Cool.
I might, like, I might extemp some of the stuff on the second off.
Okay. That's fine.
So, actually, just 2 off AC.
Okay.
What time is over here? Is everyone ready? AZ interpretation, the app must defend the implementation of a policy plan text through around the app if the app fails to propose it. Oh wait, I skipped that. B's violation, he defends it. He doesn't defend a policy option because he specifically says at the top of his resolution analysis that he won't defend implementation. And C, status 1 is critical thinking skills, role playing as policymakers, which includes defending a policy's key to critical thinking skills, kill it all. Policy practice involves identifying and understanding balance between policy options, balancing different policy options to track skills for interpreting positions of others, developing effective strategies and position making skills. 4, defending policies. These practices reflect the hallmarks of critical thinking skills, challenging underlying assumptions and exploring alternative ways ways of thinking and critical education as voted. You as a judge play a role in our education. Political space is found separate from the educational space, meaning you have an obligation to adopt a reconstructionist model of education. Giroux. The struggle social reconstructionist focus on development and philosophy in which education was viewed as a form of cultural process. Education was seen as a part of an ongoing struggle to develop forms of knowledge and social practice that made students critical thinkers and empowered them to address social problems in order to transform the system in college curricular development, identify existing injustices and attempt to motivate students to change them through social forms of action, and also outweighs any conception of education or fairness that conflicts with minds, means enacting that conception would one create an educational space where we lose the tools necessary to become agents of change that can education is political, but it can't be neutral, not resistant, oppressive. Structures only re-entrenches them because it allows us to normalize what they do, which means that you create an educational space where we re-entrench oppressive norms and use competing interreasonabilities and arbitrary metric which kills debate because the paradigm leads the question often condemns debaters for nothing they've done right don't solve since they are arbitrary or collapse to competing interests, and dropping the debater's key condemns the practice that is bad. Dropping the argument gives them a strategic option since they can go for 4 minutes in the NC turns and wins, and no RVIs won. RVIs the least substance education because it incentivizes the app to collapse into 1 year to nothing but theory. Substance debate has a stronger internally to real world application because literally theory is debated the rules of theory which will not be used outside of debate. Your second RVIs incentivizes the neg not to run theory because the app can simply be a good theory debater and collapse into 1 year. So it's back for the claims that theories is new because the neg is always going to be screwed. Third RVI so it makes sense how it's confusing, but for me it's logical and logic frames all other macro levels of claims and set frames which thus can make sense. Fourth year overviews if people can win off an RVI they will always go for it into 1 year since time train up against the less than 2 minute show with a 4 minute theory is too good to pass up, nullifying 5 minutes of NC speech and focusing the debate on one issue outweighs their time skew arguments in the app. This incentivizes me to write more theory since I know that the substance I read won't matter anyways, causing the round to become entirely theory which outweighs their time skew arguments since RVIs cause the neg not to be more abusive, and they'll say time skew one turn the app frames the debate because they get the first piece is gives the ability to frame the neg topical burden because it allows them to define what the conference is for. Instance, if they run applied my topical conference burden to defend that the plan is bad, this falls back for the time skew arguments because it means that the app will always be ahead of the debate. Second turn, the neg has the first unprepared speech. This was planned a structural disadvantage because I am the first who has the ability to mess up the 1 year can go for strategic decisions caused by the mess of the 1 and C. Third turn, they overcompensate the argument fails to account for the magnitude for which each shall side bias. For instance, if the negative wins 60% of the time, given the app exclusive RPIs causes a 30% swing, that is now 70-40 in favor for the athlete. Athlete obviously has why their proposal will solve for the side bias and not overcompensate a 4 turn for no impact. You can run theory versus neg in the 1 year and way between shells. Also solves back for that theory is a neg because you don't split issues. This also solves back for reciprocity because you can get equal access to ballot and off case. Widespread moral disagreement means widespread error accusing the status quo. Induction means our processes are unreliable. Reliable processes are key to ethical choice making. That takes out the AC sin above. Widespread error reduces the probability that my beliefs are true. I know that people's moral beliefs are right with ours, so even have no direct evidence in error. My beliefs induction suggests that they are right with their process of belief formation for reliability. Essential. My belief is entirely produced by which thing I cannot set that and maintain my belief knowing that which thing is not reliable. And phenomenal introspection is a uniquely reliable process that tells happiness is good sin above two. Phenomenal introspection is to look at one's subjective experience and determine what it's like. PR produces no beliefs about things outside of experience. If we can introspect whether we are in pain, we should be able to introspectively determine what pain is like, just as one can look at one's experience of yellow and appreciate this brightness, one can look at one's experience of pleasure and appreciate this goodness, consider a situation of increased pleasure. I can further believe that things are better than they were before, and the statement that I can further believe that there's more brightness in my visual yellow places black, and this means you can be objectively true above the 3. I can know that others' pleasure is good if I consider my experience of yellow now to be like if others have exactly the same experience. I must think that they're having bright experiences in a pleasant moment. I consider what it's like if others have exactly the same experience I'm having. I must think that they're having good experiences. Their experience have the same properties as mine. Thus, I should believe that pleasure experienced by others are good. Thus, the standards minimizing harm prefer. Additionally, one role playing as policymakers key to critical thinking skills. That's the Kel's analysis from the theory shell, and policymakers would be you to Waller. Public policies must be justified. The public policies of traders among competing valid policymakers not justify valid confidence to the public in any philosophical sense. Is a policy witness loses their duty to the public interest implied by their policies are to the overall advantage of society. And second is moral substitutability. Society change towards execute to Saul Snyder. If one has a more reason to do X and Y, then that's the neighbor of X, and one has a more reason to do Y. This moral substitutability consequential can account for this. All more reasons are have to provide by the facts that the acts are not enable to promote some good effect for reasonable reliance because doing so promotes some good the enabler relationship instead of starting to move is an enabler for preventing harm. Also controls the controlling into his framework because his framework is about taking an action, but actions depend on steps, which means that you still have to look at each individual step as producing the end base and critique. Modern politics is built on a fundamental ontological distinction between human and animals, which only humans are granted well worth lobby. There's been a long tradition in political thinking that seeks to understand the human through its relation towards animals is begun with human beings as bearers of life in two senses. First, so we live with, which humans share with animals, and second, bias a distinctive human way of living. The only the bearers of bias can partake in political life, which is devoted to the good life and to the unique capacity of human beings to set future for themselves. And this form of thinking is entrenched in the app. The extracts a dependent interpretation of the word disease that presumes a distinction between animals and humans. Their interpretation is only meaningful if the distinction has ethical and political implications. Otherwise, there wouldn't need a distinction of the first. But the second, you can call for his first analysis. I forgot the name of it, but his first argument says that disease is defined as a person, which means that necessarily excludes animals. And my framework tells that animals have moral worth, which makes them part of our political and ethical sphere, which means that winning the framework means you vote for the K Singer. we are able to say that the fact that some people are not members of our race is not entitled to exploit them. The principle also applies that the fact that other animals are less intelligent and that does not mean that their interests may be discounted. This question is, can they serve the capacity to suffer as a prerequisite to having interests, or would it be nonsensical to say that the interest of the son to be kicked by a child is just not interest because it cannot suffer if it means suffer, it could be no justification for refusing that. Suffer to take into consideration cut the card there. The alternative to adopt an interpretation of the word disease in which humans and animals is understood as morally and politically equal, the way we represent our forms of discourse, and what we conceptualize the truth and self-validity. Representations are an inherent aspect of political life. Relations are strictly bound to the discretion practice that, but the circulation representations are taken as truth, and analyzing these practices underlie how these representations make courses of action possible, such as are constituted within the discourse. For example, when U.S. troops march into Geneva, it is only when American is attached to troops at Geneva that geographical space has been created. He's going to try to exclude. He's going to try to say that the resolution interpretation means that I can never read the alternative to that. It's specifically bad under the role of ballot because it means that I can never advocate for an alternative of how we can solve for this criticism, and the criticism is consistent with the role of the ballot. Then go to the resolution or inter. So first, he violates semantics, prefer resolution or inter. The range is meaningful more words in the text about this assumption we'd be incapable of communication because we would have no way to decide which words are meaningful. The inter is not semantic because we can still depend on leaving people matter outside the presumed consent. But second, the plans math theory show is going to take this out. Then he indicates that you prefer reasonable after interest, but first is a process infinite reviews because that means that he can just have a reasonable interpretation of the app if it's correlating with the other interpretations of the resolution. But that just means that he gets to frame the debate, which means that doesn't necessarily excuse the neg because he can frame what the topical burden means.
Awesome. Has everyone read?
Yeah.
There you go. Cool. Let's talk about the anther, okay? So you justify utility through synonym. You're like, we care about pain and pleasure because other human beings can also feel pain and pleasure. Why does this mean we care about animals?
So my argument is that we should structure the debate in a discussion of whether animals matter. So then the argument is that util would care that animals suffer,
your justifications for util are anthropocentric. Why would we care?
What do you mean?
So your like the synonym cards are like we use human processes.
So the argument is that this can be like a human thing, right? But because we result in because we can introspect that we can feel pain, the argument is that we can introspect that others in the same position can feel pain too. So for instance, the argument is that, let's say I get poked by a needle, right? So if I introspect that this is a bad position, then I can introspect that if an animal is also poked by a needle, he would feel pain, which means I can objectively apply to that, right?
Okay, sure, that makes sense. What's the link to the app?
The link to the app is that, first you said that dead is like brain dead, which is commonly understood as like a person. But second, the first analysis is really the link because it indicates that the presumption of consent does not arise until a person is deceased, but a person would not be an animal.
Okay, sure, that's fine. And then the Keller card for the justification for util is a theoretical justification for your framework, right?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about the critical education voter.
Sure.
So why does this outweigh?
My argument is that we should structure the educational space to be consistent with critical pedagogy. What that necessarily means is that we should create the educational space to question dominant assumptions, norms, stuff like that. My interpretation is you should run a plan. The Keller analysis indicates that that's key to critical thinking skills, which is the internal linkage to Giroux.
Gotcha. Wait, so why is policymaking uniquely key to running a plan? It seems like there's a ton of critical thinking. Say we have like a really complicated philosophical.
Well, my argument is that even then it would still demand a plan because the Giroux evidence indicates that we should still role play as people who create advocacies that would stop structures of repression or stuff like that. So the argument indicates that a policy would be something that could be viable, right?
Could be viable. Okay, so why can't we just look at the system from the outside?
What do you mean?
We could instead of role playing, we could just be let's examine the system as a whole critically and not pretend to be policymakers.
Well, that could itself be something that a policymaker could do, right? But I'm saying that a policymaker would enact a policy. You can make that argument.
Sure, that makes sense. And then on the time skew arguments, when did I ever say time skew?
I said you will say time skew.
Oh, I will say time. So these are just preempts?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about the overview to the app. What was your response on Rodriguez?
So the overview is that we should prefer semantical interpretations of the resolution. I say that your interpretation is not semantical.
Why is it not semantical?
Right, because to be consistent with semantics, we have to look at multiple words in the resolution. If you look at multiple words in the resolution, your statement about how humans matter and have worth can be true absent of the phrase presumed consent, which means that the resolution interpretation should speak something to more than just humans matter more than dead people.
Got it. I'm going to take prep starting now. I'm sorry, my timer didn't start starting now. Okay. 118 left. Order's going to be 2 new off.
Do they have cards?
No.
Okay. Can you flash
Actually,
it to me?
yes. Actually, yeah. Actually, yes. I'm reading new cards. I will flash you what I'm reading.
Okay.
Let me do that. Anyways, the order's 2 new off, counter interp to his shell. Extensions out of the AC.
No, counter enter. Okay.
Just make sure this is the right thing.
Two new off and counter enter, that's it?
No, then extensions out of the AC.
Okay.
And they'll be like cross applications to the K.
Okay.
Here, just let me finish getting this together for you.
Okay.
Why didn't this save? Okay. I'm sorry, Word is being, my computer's being really weird. It's like not saving the document. I think I got it though.
Okay.
Dubs 20R. Let me know if it worked. It might not have saved. No, that
Fine.
Okay. What? It's like a mic. Yeah.
Okay, it's Dubs 20R.
Yep.
It starts with the AC.
What? Wait. Let me see. Oh, it might be out of order. I'm reading these stuff. Like this. That's where the cards are. Like that's the only new evidence of reading.
Okay, wait. Is this the new off?
Yes. Second page is the new off.
Wait. Where's the interpretation?
No, the interp's at the top of this page. The
Okay.
counter interp is on the first page.
Oh, so one of the new offs is a counter interp?
No. Okay, so I guess it's 3 off then, because the counter interp is a new off.
Okay.
So it's 3 off, his shell, AC.
Okay.
EA counterclaim.
Okay, so it's 2 new separate offs, then a counter interp, his shell, which is another off, his shell, AC. Awesome. I'm sorry about all that. Is everyone ready? Okay, so is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Okay. First off, AC interpretation betas must only read normative justifications so that their claim cannot theoretical justifications be as violation. You can see this cross-examination, the Keller evidence of theoretical justification, ceramic C standards. First is philosophical education. The only way we can have philosophical education is if we debate philosophical warrants for the framework as long as he has a theoretical justification. You can always just go for the theoretical warrant, the 2NR, and negate all the philosophical education. Now, this means that I control 100% of links to philosophical education. He's a better theory debater. He's always just going to go for the theoretical warrants and never ignore the philosophical ones. We never have framework debate. Second is ground. As long as the affirmative can, as long as any debater can use theoretical interpretation to justify that, that means that they can just find a framework that gives it massive grounds to their side. They can even go find theoretical reasons for interpretation tautologically. If it goes to their side of the resolution, this kills my ground is key to fairness because it's the only way to access valid fairness. Next, voter fairness to voter because debate is competitive activity both. Debaters need equal access to values. Should prefer fairness to critical education. A, because this critical education space he calls on needs to create a safe space for David's debate. Round is terribly unfair that we can't have critical education because debaters aren't going to be able to make arguments to access to valid. B, if the debate is unfair, people are going to be disenfranchised from competing because if it's really unfair and the judge just votes for the most critical person without actually engaging in fairness around people aren't going to compete, and that means that I'm controlling the link into critical education. Second off, AC interpretation, the negative must defend interprets on T and other interpretational issues as long as some basis in the topic literature and the words of the resolution violations. They challenge theologians to interpret the topic through the serial standard. They go extend the arguments from the AC on the AC number 200 view first. T interprets kill my ground because it means that extend the ground standard that it kills my ground because I'm always going to T negates 6 minutes of AC offense. That means I'm always going to be at a massive disadvantage, and you can extend the C point, which is the B point, which is clash, which means this always takes around the focus away from the substance of the resolution. The only argument he makes on this is this infinite abuse claim. This is absolutely this is clearly not. This clearly doesn't allow infinite abuse. My argument is just as long as my argument is reasonable. And there's some basics in topic literature that topic literature. The fact that there needs to be basis in topic literature checks is because I can't pick ridiculous interpretations and screw him over. This is a clear reason why I should for this. Now let's go. Now let's go to his shell, new off, extend the interpret from the act of pursuing consent first, prioritizing claims those in need of organs over those in dead, not that the preference for organ donation. Violation there and prevents me from running their arguments for one. Granted, the actor in the resolution of society, not a government distinction is relevant. Governments could implement not that policy. People within society might still be alive and promote organs as long as the cease action extends. And only my interpret counts this abuse, presumption, decided regulations, rights. Grammar to independent voter comes first because the resolution of statement no coherent follows the structure of grammar. Two is legal system stands legal fiction because presumptions are rebuttable. Rodriguez writes in law presumptions conclusion drawn from other evidence. The legal presumption should be known. Should opportunity to rebut the presumption. One could argue the presumption contender has 2 chances to rebut the presumption prior to death by opting out, and that death next in the first argument fails because opting out prevents the presumption from rising in the first place. Second argument is problematic. In order to register the objection, the next king would have to be aware of the presumption. In order to register the objection within a certain amount of time, people are generally unaware of the status. It's more of the possibility remains the next king would provide contrary to which it sees presumption laws in interest of saving lives alone time legal. This is key to fairness because frames are understanding the terms of those letters soon more over arguments inconsistent with the law and career because they don't use legal terms properly. Also go really quickly back to the meta theory shell. I forgot to make these arguments for. So first, you should for meta theory, normal theory because meta theory makes a procedural claim about what fairness is in there. So which means if he's winning other theory arguments, the way he's winning them is unfair. So we can't know if he's winning them because they're true because he's doing it abusively. That means you have to evaluate meta theory first. Which means if I'm winning offense back to fairness on meta theory, you look to that first. Now go to his shell off the critical education standard first. This is non-unique to policy making or for turn it. It's better to examine things from an outside perspective because role playing disillusions the debater makes them identify with someone else so they don't actually understand and make choices themselves. Rather by critically examining a system externally, that's better. Second, you can turn it again and examine things from philosophical perspective. Always better to get a critical understanding of the system because it means that we're examining things from an external perspective. We're examining the philosophical underpinnings of what happens in the system. This broad view lets us see a broader picture view of the world and that helps us understand better. These are 2 reasons why I'm controlling the link to a critical education. Now, let's go to the AT extended community. 1 evidence that we only understand the world human tombs are. Meaning is that means that all meaning is subjective. This has a lot of implications. The first one is it takes out the anthrop because it means the anthrop percentages and it means that we can only look through an anthrop percentage. It's literally illogical to ask us to do anything else. The second implication is that it takes out the symbolic cards because it means that it doesn't matter if we use phenomenal instruction to find meaning, because as long as that meaning is only going to be subjective, we can never verify it to any kind of objective moral principle. The third implication, this means that you should be preferring my offense under my theorem because he's conceding absurdism, and true he's conceding an epistemological claim that focuses how we evaluate the resolution, go to the contention, extend the commute for card that establishes that life is that we need to preserve our encounter because it forms the basis of all and spike under that he concedes it says life is a prerequisite under any ethical framework. This means you should always be preferring the impacts in the AC and sufficient to gain our form under the
Can I
framework.
see the interps? They weren't flashed.
What interps?
All 2 of them before I start my pattern.
Okay, so do you want me to like just show them to you if you come over here?
No, I want you to, like, can I have your laptop so I can...
Oh yeah, for sure. And the theoretical justifications one was exempt.
Okay. Wait, the what was exempted?
The one about theoretical justifications for frameworks.
Can you write down the interp?
Mm-hmm. I can. Here we go. Actually, my writing's awful. Do you want me to just type it for you?
Yes.
Okay.
This is
so-
the document you gave me. This document doesn't have the 2 interpretations.
Which one doesn't it have?
Okay, you read, I can't,
You read can't, must accept after interpretation on T and other interpretational issues. That's
so the
page 2.
document you gave me, which is that document,
Yeah.
does have...
Yeah, it does.
Look.
It has the it has the second interpretation. The neg must accept after interprets on T. That is the meta theory shell I read. And then it has the counter interpret to the af, which is right here, and I read this thing at the top.
Dude.
Yeah.
Look,
Definitely
hold
what
on.
I flashed you.
No, I'm not complaining. Look.
Okay.
Okay, so this is what you gave me. Where's those interps?
Right here. I read that's the counter interpret that I
Right.
read, and then scroll down. That's the meta theory interp.
Okay.
I read those verbatim.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
what's the other shell?
The other shell is af must not read must only read or debaters must only read normative justifications for the standard. That
You
interpret-
extended that shell?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you still want me to write down the interp for that shell?
Yes.
Okay.
You can write it here.
Okay. For sure.
Right here.
Okay. Since it was extempt, I'm pretty sure this is what I read verbatim.
Okay.
But like,
I have 20 seconds left.
I think so.
Okay. Ready?
I didn't know.
Okay. What were the 2 arguments on the shell you made? My shell.
On your shell,
Yes. You said turn policy role playing what?
Yeah, I said that first, like, identifying with a policymaker is bad, like,
Why?
because it's like disillusions us, and said it's better to like take a bigger, broader critical perspective. My second was examining the philosophical underpinnings of systems, like gives us a better understanding of them.
Okay, so order's gonna be my interp, then let's see how we're gonna do this. So order's gonna be, I guess, my interp, then the counter interp, then the meta theory, then the theory shell that says the app must. The app must accept app interps.
Okay.
So
Wait, what's the last shell you're going to?
Huh?
What's the last shell you're doing?
So the last show is the neg must accept the apps interps on T.
Okay.
Okay. Is everyone ready? Okay. Are you ready? Then the interpretation, the app must defend the implementation of a policy plan to throughout the route of the alpha and extend the violation defense, the general resolution which doesn't propose a plan, extend the first hand, which is critical thinking skills, role playing as policymakers, which includes defending policies, key to critical thinking skill sets. First argument is a turn. He says that role playing as policymakers is bad. It's bad because it disillusions, but he is not contextualizing this one. That the Kellertaus indicates that role playing as policymakers is key to critical thinking skills because it empowers us to question the underlying assumption, which is the internal link. Also, even if he's turning about policymakers, he's still considering the Giroux analysis indicates that we have to role play as social reconstructionists. The social reconstructionists would demand a policy that mitigates that resists forms of domination and oppression. His second turn is that this distances ourselves from philosophical class, but first this is not true because first this is not true because I specifically indicate that you can still run a framework and that you can still debate the plantics, which is the reason that's why it doesn't distance ourselves from philosophical education. But second, he's conceding weight analysis and the Giroux analysis, extending weight under the Giroux analysis, any conception of education, i.e. philosophical education, or fairness that conflicts with my means enacting that conception would one create an educational space where we lose it to a sense to become agents of change. Second, education is political, but it can't be neutral, not resistant to pressure structures, only re-entrenches that because it allows them to normalize what they do, which means that you create an educational space where we re-entrench suppress them. So even if he has an internal link into phil education that specifically conflicts with critical education, that means my education always going to outweigh, which is the reason as to why he's not going to be winning any turns as long as I can weigh between the shells. That's the reason as to why I'm going to be winning. So then extend, okay, so then the, this shell's going to, wait, now let's go to this, okay, now go to his interpretation, okay, okay, so he says grammar, but first you can turn it resolve before a column reflects a legislative action or before for the column introduces a form of resolution after the word resolve, that is the council performer the major, that is the counter performer major, which means that he has to enact a policy option. But second you can turn it again. Resolve implies a policy or legislative decision means they must resolve a future federal government action as Parcher 01. American heritage resolution, resolve firmness of resolution, the determination of our discourse is the nature of the word resolution makes the question of the course of action is determined by the destination as a legislator. The topic of community class resolution, they focus on the ground and fairness because the resolution which serves as the basis of the debate which would resolve by the determine the policy desirability of that resolution, which means that it's more grammatical within the interpretation of us to defend a policy option. Also outweighs his interpretation because mine is talking about specifically because he is not enacting the he is not looking at the resolution in terms of the res of resolve, which means that after the column that whatever that is that has to necessarily be within the policy. So he has to offer a competing interpretation of resolve for him to be winning the grammar debate. Also, he indicates that grammar outweighs critical pedagogy, but that's true. That's the reason as to why you would always buy my interpretation. So if I'm winning the interp, then go to his sorry, there's a lot of shells. Okay, go to the interpretation that debaters must only read a normative justification for their ethical framework. So first, AZ counter-interpretation, the app should be able to defend a pre-fiat justification for their framework if they defend a role of the ballot B and C. I mean, that's exactly what I do, and this is going to be this has an internal link to critical pedagogy because if I defend a role of the ballot that structures the win conditions from the beginning of the round to be consistent with the role of the ballot, as long as I can win that the role of the ballot outweighs his theory. So that's the reason as to why the counter-interpretation is going to be net preferable. So he is also conceding weight his interpretation. His voters' fairness, but my interpretation so is going to outweigh because I specifically said that when these two interpretations conflict, then you should always err on the side of critical pedagogy because otherwise the fairness is always going to be perpetuating dominant ideologies. He indicates that fairness is going to constrain critical pedagogy because we need a safe space in order to enact these policies. But first, if we create this safe space, it's going to be one that is an oppressive space because it directly conflicts with critical pedagogy, which is a turn under the fairness. He also says that he controls the internal link to critical pedagogy, but that's nonsensical because a critical pedagogy would demand that we structure the win conditions in this way, which means that which means that it wouldn't control the internal link because it means that it directly conflict, so it is impossible. He has to be winning that. He has to be winning that. I don't link into a critical pedagogy under the counter interpretation, and that's also going to be that's also going to that's also a reason as to why critical pedagogy outweighs that. Then go to the interpretation where the neg must accept the as interps and T and other interpretation issues. The problem is that he's conceding the semantic issue on the one. You see the counter interpretation is that the affirmative doesn't have to accept the affirmatives interps on T. The reason as to why he's conceding the semantic interpretation, which means that when we speak the language we use different, we have to look at different words in the resolution to derive meaning because otherwise there's no meaning in the way we talk because that's how we create language. He is also conceding that his interpretation is not consistent with the semantic semantic standard because it would mean because well, you can imagine that living people would be valued absent of the resolution, which means that the resolution would demand something else that is not different of that. It means that also functions as an I-mean trace interpretation because it proves that it's not reasonable. If I can prove that it's not semantic, that means it's not consistent with our grammar, so it's not reasonable. He says that he has to have a reasonable interpretation of that, but that is an I-mean also. He says that the app must accept the in terms of the T. If I can just accept them in the 1AC, then that in the 1 and the 2NC, that's an I mean because that is a semantic I mean because he's not doing any he's not specifically saying that I should do it in the 1AC. But here's how the round goes. I'm winning a strong link into my shell. So there's I means on the meta theory shell. Oh, also evaluate meta theory doesn't outweigh theory because you have to evaluate the debate on all under the voters. My interpretation. You have to look at which one's net preferable. My interpretation is that my interpretation would outweigh the meta theory shell because his theory would constrain it, but that would mean that we produce a critically unpedagogical debate. So you can vote off of the interpretation.
All right. In a minute 18 left. I will take it starting now. I got the time. Okay, order is going to go my counterinterp, meta theory, theoretical framework shell. Counterinterp, meta theory, theoretical framework shell, then his original interp. Okay.
Sorry, meta theory?
No, so counterinterp, meta theory, philosophical education, like theoretical framework justifications, his shell.
Okay.
Okay. Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So it's my counterinterp, meta theory, theoretical justification shell, his interp. Okay. Is everyone ready? Then the interpreter in the after means prioritize the claims of those in need of organs over the dead who have not cited their preference for organ donation. The arguments makes the grammar standard are non-responsive first because the problem is that he's not denying the fact my interpretation random connect his result read definitions are all just look to an alternate definition. Where the problem is that both of these are grammatically correct. Only my interpretation controls the internal link to what it actually means to be grammatically correct. I say the actor of the resolution is just cited don't enact policies themselves. It's a clear reason why I'm winning the grammar standard. You should prefer grammar on semantics because it controls the internal link to how resolutions statements actually make sense. We could argue about definitions, but if the resolution is logically incoherent because of follow grammatical structure, that means we can't evaluate the arguments. It means you can't evaluate the definitional arguments. They don't matter. The fact that I'm winning grammar also means that I access meta theory because his only response to meta theory is that the fact that he's like challenging my interp means that it's unreasonable. That doesn't make any sense. So let's go to the meta theory now. Extend the interpretation to the negative must concede the after interpretation as long as the affirmative interpretation of the resolution is grounded in some conception of the topic literature. Extend standard ground. He doesn't contest. He concedes this in the last speech. The ground says it kills my grammar. He's able to move 6 minutes space. He often this means that you always look to me. Then he speaks class language says that as long as he's able to run theory that gets us out. That means we don't look to the AC and we don't get any kind of education. Solve controls the internal link to critical education because it means as long as he's able to just run theory, we don't engage in any kind of education whatsoever, including the critical education that he types on in the last speech. These include reasons why you should be voting on meta theory, and he's not doing enough work on the line by line for why we look to meta theory. His only response to meta theory is just that we can weigh against, but the problem is he's conceding internal the specific warrants why meta theory has come first. My argument is that the meta theory makes a procedural claim about the way that he's winning arguments, proving the truth in the context of the debate round. His theory shell is inherently unfair, then that means that we don't know if he's winning an argument because it's fair, winning his arguments because they're true, or because he's cheating in the round. Meta theory has to exist in the checkpoint. This means it's prerequisite. This is the easiest place you can pull the trigger in this round because I'm conceding conceding reasons why because grammar means I control the internal link to meta theory, and he's conceding offense on it. Now, let's go on to the philosophical education off his intro. First, really quickly, he said the affirmative has to defend first bias. He's negating this means it's textually non-competitive, but if you don't want to vote on that sketchy argument, that's fine. Extend the philosophical education, which says the theoretical arguments control the theoretical education moves 100% of philosophical education. This is the reason why I'm controlling 100% of the link to the standard. That means it doesn't matter if he even gets his critical. He hypes on why critical education is source, but he doesn't say that education doesn't matter. Philosophical education doesn't matter, which means if I'm controlling 100% of the link to philosophical education, which he's conceding because people always go for theoretical justification, he still looks at me because I'm winning more offense back to the vote, and he's also conceding the grounds here, and he could just pick up he could use theoretical justification to pick a standard that completely kills my ground, which means I never have access to the ballot. This means he's also conceding a reason why he's conceding two independent reasons. One, for the meta theory and here why my ground is completely killed by his interpretation. It means I'm having a massive impact back to fairness, so even if he's winning some impact back to critical education, you still prefer reasons why you look to me. Then off the arguments on why fairness comes for critical education, he's now doing an fork on that number 8 point, which establishes that which means we need to establish rules for a critical space to have meaning in the first place. If everyone just cheats, we're not actually having any kind of critical discussion. We're just having a contest of who cheats in the first place. This is a clear reason why fairness comes first, or at least should be weighed against critical education, which is the reason why you should be looking at this shell and voting off. But if that's not enough, let's finally go to his shell. Then the second argument that we need think for things from a philosophical perspective, it keeps us a better protected in the system because we examine the underlying factors that occur within a system. And when we critically examine it, even if the system's great arguments, like the arguments he's extending, is show winning some defense on critical education, which means that the impacts aren't as big, and you should prioritize the impacts coming after the other. Whereas I'm winning massive links to fairness in education. If the debate, and if there's at least some defense on critical education, that means that debate isn't clear, and you should just vote on those shells. Good round.